what is the Republican Party anymore? President Obama said to, roughly 800,000 young people who were brought to this country as children, probably the majority of them brought to this country before they even spoke a language. This is the only country they know. And many, if not most of them, don't even speak Spanish, and I'm not sure if it's most, but many. I mean, and basically, our country made a promise to these children and said, if you will give us all this information about yourself, about your family, basically implicating their parents in the quote crime of bringing their children into the country undocumented, if you'll give us all this information, we will protect you. We will defer action. That's the first two letters of DACA. We're going to defer that action. We're going to protect you. And when the federal government, when the United States government makes a promise to people, it should keep it. I mean, is it so important to Donald Trump that to keep America white that he's got to kick these kids? I mean, that's the essence of this. The Southern Poverty Law Center has just released a whole bunch of emails, over 800 emails that Stephen Miller sent to an editor at Breitbart back in 2015 and 2016. And this is, when he was working with the Trump campaign and before he was working with the Trump campaign. And there was this woman, Katie McHugh, who was an editor for Breitbart from April 2014 to June 2017. She was a right-winger. She was anti-immigrant. She was anti-persons of color, right across the spectrum. She was anti-Muslim. I guess, kind of white nationalist incorporates all those things. And then she repudiated it, right? She got fired from Breitbart in 2017, and she said, no, that's not me. And she started turning these emails that she had from Stephen Miller over to Hate Watch, Southern Poverty Law Center's, Hate Watch is the name of their program. And, this is from their press release. Hate Watch exposes the racist source material that has influenced Miller's visions of policy, includes white nationalist webs. This is the stuff that Stephen Miller was emailing this editor at Breitbart. White nationalist websites, white genocide-themed novel in which Indian men rape white women, xenophobic conspiracy theories, and eugenics-era immigration laws that Adolf Hitler praised in Mein Kampf. 900 previously unknown emails. I'm surprised it's not, in the news, in the media. But the bottom line here is that you have to ask the question. I mean, outside of white nationalism and standing for billionaires, what does the Republican Party stand for? What is the Republican Party anymore? I mean, yeah, they throw a bone to white Christian evangelicals. Yes, we're going to keep your tax exempt status even if you engage in political activity. That was Trump's big pitch, right? We're going to do away with or just ignore the Johnson Amendment. This was a law that was passed back in the 1950s that said that if a church wants to be tax exempt, they can't participate in politics. Basically, stick to religion, and we'll pay for your police and fire. No problem. Now, frankly, I have a problem with that, but that's a whole other conversation. But, that's the deal that we made with the churches, and they've been breaking that deal for the last decade or two. And Trump has just gone whole in on this. So, it's a transactional thing. So, as Donald Trump, I think the Republican Party is dead. And, what's going to replace it is like a really good question. Because it's either going to be it is going to reinvent itself as the Trump party, and it largely is right now. It's doing this. In other words, it reinvents itself as the party of tax cuts for billionaires, deregulation for polluting industries, hate on steroids for anybody who's not white or Christian or both, and power. I mean, this is what is going. We're going to, tomorrow is the beginning of the public hearings, the impeachment hearings, and this whole shtick that Donald Trump is running, that has been running all along, these various crimes that he has committed. And now it turns out, Rick Perry goes over to Ukraine and says, we're concerned about corruption here in Ukraine. By the way, can you give a gas contract to one of my biggest donors? Honest to God. And the donor gets this contract and makes millions and millions of dollars in Ukraine, or is prepared to, or ready to, or will be soon, or whatever. And that's, this was Rick Perry's thing? We don't like corruption, which is code for, we want you to make some dirt on Joe Biden, as you know. But I think that the Republican Party has no core values beyond those ones that I just articulated. This is it. I mean, when my dad was a Republican, the old Eisenhower Republicans, I think they're all gone. I think they're all dead. I know, and they had principles. They were not, by and large, screaming racists or homophobes or fearful of immigrants and things like that. I mean, Dwight Eisenhower got reelected in 1956, bragging that he had strengthened Social Security, and added millions of people to the rolls. He'd added more and more people to labor unions. I mean, the Republican Party used to just be, we sort of like rich people, but we also like a middle class. And we just think that, change should happen slowly, sort of. But, maybe this is just inevitable, because the Republican Party has basically always been the party of business. It's just that back in my dad's day, it was the party of Main Street business, and now it's the party of oligarch business. I mean, they just kind of shifted their focus slightly. And then they'll yell about abortion and guns and LGBT people and immigrants to bring in the rubes, to bring in the haters. I mean, Stephen Miller, his job appears to be electoral outreach, really. Let's trash people who aren't white. I mean, if you're a Republican and you're listening to me right now, and you can tell me what the Republican Party stands for anymore, give me a call, 202-808-9925, because I can't figure it out. And there's just this complete betrayal of our principles. Principle number one, you make a promise to your people as a government, you keep that promise. What Trump should be doing is saying, okay, I don't like the DACA program. I don't want any more, illegals to become citizens of the United States, or even have a path to it, or even have safety in this country. So I'm not going to allow any more people into it. I mean, that would at least have some consistency, some principle to it, because it would respect the fact that we had made this promise to these roughly 800,000 kids. But just to say, as a country, we said this to you, and you gave us all this information that could be used against you and your extended family, and now we're going to betray that promise. It's just like the promise that we made to Ukraine, that we would provide them with material support, in their conflict with Russia. It's like the commitment that we made to Iran and 5 other countries that helped us negotiate the Iran nuclear deal. We made a commitment. Trump says, we don't have a commitment. And now Iran is like, enriching uranium like there's no tomorrow. Or the commitment that we made to the rest of the world, a movement that we helped lead with regard to the Paris Accords, that we would, as a country, we would, stand with science and try to reduce our carbon emission footprint. So, I mean, it's just straightforward stuff. These were all commitments that the United States made. These were all agreements that we made. And we have, and this administration said, screw it. This stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's a difference between changing policy and breaking your word. Just a very simple, straightforward difference. And what we have right now is we're breaking our word in item after item after item. It's the betrayal of our principles. And now you've got, Republicans saying, well, you can't impeach Trump because we all know he's crooked. You just can't impeach him for being crooked. You know, seriously, I mean, this is, where's the story? Here it is, right here. This was Congressman Mac Thornberry on ABC's This Week. This was, I guess, Sunday. And he says, and I quote, "There's not really anything that the president said in that phone call that's different than what he says in the public all the time. So is there some sort of abuse of power that rises to the threshold that is different than the American people have been hearing for 3 years? I didn't hear that." In other words, Trump's been crooked all along. Trump has been lying to us all along. Now you're going to impeach him? That's essentially what this Republican is saying. What happened to principles? Rick Gates, by the way, testifying at Roger Stone's trial, says that after Trump got off the phone with Roger Stone, he told Gates that more WikiLeaks damaging stuff to Hillary was coming, because Roger Stone had been talking to WikiLeaks. Well, Trump, in writing and under oath, testified to the Mueller grand jury that he never had that conversation. So either Gates and Manafort are lying, and yet, you know, Trump seemed to know about all this. He was talking about, I mean, all this stuff is just like out there. And then on top of that, we find out that a bunch of Trump's buddies are like making off with millions, literally millions of dollars from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Honest to God, they're bleeding Medicare.